Welcome to Season 11 of How to Start Up, the podcast helping you start and scale your business with advice from entrepreneurs on what to do now, next, or never. This season, we'll be hearing about all things productivity from amazing entrepreneurs sharing how they've hacked theirs. Hosted by me, Juliet Fallowfield, founder of the B Corp certified PR communications and podcasting consultancy, Fallowfield & Mason. Our mission is to enable you to master your own storytelling, whether that be via PR or podcasting, all with a long-term view. It's challenging enough to be productive while building just one company. However, productively building multiple ventures at once requires incredible focus and purpose. With this in mind, I wanted to speak with someone who's achieved this alongside several investor, advisor and board positions, all while keeping purpose at the heart of every endeavour. Asad Hamir is the co-founder of Klyk, the B Corp certified sustainable IT company helping businesses tackle e-waste and reduce their carbon footprint. Alongside Klyk, he's also the co-founder of Ocushield, a clinician-led eye healthcare company. And in addition to this, he also serves as an NED and investor in several tech and healthcare companies. Keep listening to hear Asad's advice on how to scale without losing productivity or purpose, plus how to make your calendar work for you and not the other way round. Thank you, Asad, for joining How to Start Up today. It's wonderful to have you on. Before we get into all things productivity, it would be great if you could give a bit of an introduction as to who you are and a bit of background around the businesses that you started.
Yeah, great. So real pleasure to be on the podcast, first of all. I started my career as an optometrist, so that's why you'll always see me in different
really
glasses.
Cool glasses.
Yeah, I actually probably have about 40 or 50 pairs. So yeah, it's become a passion. My family's from East Africa, so from Tanzania and Uganda. My mum was an optometrist, basically. So hence why it became kind of the family trade. And I think our family's got the world record for the number of optometrists. We've got 45 optometrists in our family. Big Indian family, loads of cousins. Everyone did it. But and mum wore the trousers and kind of forced me to do it. But dad was an IT engineer, basically. So grew up with tech around the house, and always used to go with him to repair stuff and go to people's houses, and I'd be the guy holding the screwdriver, and always used to love it when he'd get me to tighten things up on the motherboards and things like that, and got a real passion out of it from a young age. And then did optometry, and third year university, Steve Jobs got up on stage and said his iPhone, and I finished my degree in optometry, and then I launched a mobile phone reseller business with the mobile network O2. I was one of 3 partners that helped bring the iPhone to the UK market in London. Yes, we sold about 3 or 4 million smartphones over a 10 plus year period. So I started that business at 22 years old, which was a great experience. Right place, right time in many ways. I mean, the smartphone boom just took off at that point, right? iPhones, did really well. And grew that business up to a couple hundred people, about 40 million in revenue, the kind of peak. And actually, it then was a trip back to East Africa in 2017, 2018. And I was wandering the streets there in Kariakoo, which is a market area, and started to see people selling computers and laptops on the sides of the streets. And I was obviously just techies. I was like, let me go over and see what they are. And on the computers, it's these little asset tags, which has the names of the company that they belonged to before. And they were companies from the UK. And I was like, hold on, what's going on here? Started asking questions and realized that a lot of this stuff has just been shipped from the UK because it's just waste that they are just getting rid of, and then these guys obviously in Tanzania were reselling it. And that's where I came across electronic waste and realized how big this problem was going to get. And I guess I was part of it, right? I was part of that problem with the first business, and so started looking into the area more and more, and realized that there was no one really enabling the business world side of things. So helping businesses reduce their electronic waste kind of all the way through the employee lifecycle. And then COVID happened, and that was a real moment for the tech industry where consumption just went through the roof. And that was a point where I connected the dots between e-waste consumption and launched the business basically to try and help especially startups and scale-ups reduce their carbon emissions through their device life cycles.
You are 4 years in now or 5 years?
So about 4 years in from the idea inception, 2 years from proper launch. So the business is now run rates about 4 million ish. And yeah, we're profitable. We've been bootstrapped till now, but now we're at a point where we're in a position where we can really scale the business. Having done it before, I think, is an advantage, like having been through that journey a couple of times. So, and I've also had business failures. I've seen what not to do as well. So it's an exciting time at Klyk for sure.
And I was going to say that's the first time you've actually mentioned the business name, which means I think you're probably one of the most humble founders there are. So Klyk is a sustainable IT company. So
Yeah.
it's a circular economy for IT waste. Is that correct? So you're taking what could
Yeah.
become landfill and dangerous to the planet and getting it back into the system. And I
Yeah.
noticed you were B Corp certified as well. When did you get your certification?
So we got our certification very early on, about 2 years ago, and we actually do B Corps as well. So the actual B Corp. So we do all of their procurement, all their recycling. I mean, naturally, the types of businesses that want this kind of service are ones that are sustainably minded, but we're not seeing it just exclusively in that world because it makes business sense to be more sustainable. It's one of these kind of rare areas where actually by adopting sustainability, actually it saves you money because you're buying refurbished tech instead of buying new tech. You're repairing instead of throwing it away. You're recycling at the end. You're recovering value at the end. So typically we can save a business like 60% on their overall IT spend. Whenever we tell a CFO that, they're like, that definitely perks their ears.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of the time with sustainability or businesses trying to be better, they think it's going to come at a bigger cost. It'll take them more time. It's an investment, but it's worth it. And there's always a bit of an eye roll of like, we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Whereas I like B Corp, and we became B Corp certified a year last September. And it was the fact that you're putting people and planet above profit, but you still need to be a profitable company to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in profit. And I think when you're saying it's actually going to save you money, it's also going to be better for the planet. It ticks all the boxes. For you to pivot from your previous business to this, that light bulb moment when you saw what was happening, did you think, right, there is no choice, I have to fix this problem?
Yeah, it was quite different, right? Because I was like taking stuff from Apple, which was like new and boxed, and you just go and sell it, right? And here you have to actually recover stuff. You have to triage it, test it, see whether it needs repairs and stuff like that. So there's a whole kind of, from a supply chain perspective, there's a whole different layer before it's actually ready to sell. But yeah, I really felt that this was my calling in many ways, because having seen that side of things, having been from East Africa myself, seeing where all this stuff unfortunately was ending up, that it felt like, this is where I need to be really. And I couldn't see anyone else in the UK that was thinking this way. And I guess I really felt that, I was the right person to go on that journey.
Well, I'm so glad you have, because you're obviously killing it and it's doing really well, as it should be. But you're a tried and tested serial entrepreneur. Productivity, this season is all around all things productivity. And I was saying how when you start a business, you're busy, and everyone says, don't be a busy fool. And you want to be productive, and time is money, and time is the most precious resource that you have. Money will come and go. Productivity to me, I've always prided myself on a system and a process and a hack, and actually realized I was burning myself out because the more systems I found, the more things I streamlined, the more I was trying to do. And actually sometimes you just need to stop and not do anymore. For you, how do you define being productive?
The biggest thing that I find now is like defining what I need to do every single day. So I normally start my day off with like, let's sit down and let's write down what I'm going to do, rather than getting into the email death trap. But challenges with the business where we are at this stage is we're also client focused. So we are still very much on the front line with clients, and I am as well. So I have to strike that balance between, okay, I've got things to get done which are more short, medium, longer term, but then at the same time I also need to react to clients. So for me, it's about, okay, the start of every week, let me agree some objectives or some things I'm going to try and achieve by the end of the week. And then at the same time, leaving myself enough time during the day to be able to check my emails, check my Slack, respond to things. So I kind of look at the kind of wins in terms of my longer term objectives. And the way we work as a business, we try and match those to OKRs. So we use OKR frameworks. And so I look at that, and then I look at short-term wins and short-term things that happen. So it could be like an issue that we've been able to resolve. And, a client is happy that we've been able to resolve it. And that's like a win, or it could be a client win, or it could be a sale. So I think you've got to celebrate not only the big stuff and develop objectives that you need to work on more longer term, but I think you also need to count the things that come in on a day-to-day basis, where unfortunately, in the early stages of a business, you are always going to be firefighting to an extent, right? You can't get away from that. You can't outsource that. So I look at it in that kind of bigger picture to go, right, okay, have I been able to keep my head clear and achieve the things that have come in on a day-to-day basis? At the same time, I've been able to move forward the weekly objectives as well.
How do you protect your calendar? Do you time block, or just
Yeah.
know that some days are going to be better than others?
So I use Calendly.
Love it.
Yeah, exactly. And try and protect the Calendly as well. So I don't give it out sparingly. Like, try not to just give it out to everyone just like that. Because you just find people just like book in time, right? And that could be both internally and externally. Most days I'm in the office. So with that comes challenges, because the way our office is kind of designed is me and my co-founder sit in the middle of the office, and it's all open plan. So what tends to happen is people tend to come over when they've got a problem. So I think it's also about making sure that you set some boundaries for yourself in those kinds of environments, so that, even though there might not be something in your calendar, there could be something that just can come up from time to time. And your internal team also needs to know that they have to kind of find the time to come and have that chat, rather than needing to come over. Of course, if it's urgent, then you do so.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because you want the open door policy and you want that open culture. But I remember in one of my old jobs, I'd come back from a press appointment and my team would just pounce on me straight away. It's like, guys, I need a cup of tea, I need to go to the loo, and I need to write the notes from the meeting, and then pounce on me, because it's that dynamic. I think the more time you spend together in the office, the more you know how people work. But you don't want to have that closed door, but you need time to yourself to actually do the bits you need to do yourself, and you can't be open all the time. So sitting in the middle is a big risk, but have your team learned how to respect that boundary?
It's taken some time. It's definitely taken some time. But yeah, I think now we've got to a good balance. I think if I was designing the office again, I probably wouldn't have done it like this again. In some ways, it's really good because you encourage this very open culture. What I do separate to that then as well is I have like non-office days. So I've got like also like a co-working membership at the office group, and I'll go there once a week, or just work from home. So that way I get my balance where I need my quiet time. I can just bang through stuff, or we've got this really nice kind of outside seating area, which, during the summer months is great, or go to a local coffee shop. Coming back to the calendar, Calendly, definitely time blocking, and also just structuring my week. Monday's firstly meetings day. So try and get through as many meetings, internal team, set everyone up, especially by like 2-3 o'clock, so that, you can then get on with the rest of the day. Tuesday, you get some bleed of meetings from Monday, but then the rest of the week is just getting stuff done. So I think I like to structure it in that way. But then always, like, even if you have a day where you've got loads of meetings, like sales calls and whatever, just make sure you give yourself a couple of hours just to like catch up with things, because otherwise you'll get to like 6 o'clock, you haven't checked your emails, and then you're at work to like 8-9, or you're taking it home with you, and obviously that's not very healthy.
Yeah, there has to be an off switch. I think it was you and Yong in his episode in season 3, which would have been 2 years ago. He's like, just know the end of your day. If it's 10 o'clock, fine. If it's 7 o'clock, fine. There is an end, and you have to stick to it, because you need to wind down. And I'm so bad at this, because I think I'll just clear a bit more, and then you need that extra kind of hour or two in the evening to then decompress, to then be able to go to sleep and do it all over again. I'm my own worst enemy with that. I'm fascinated how people manage their time, especially because you're also a co-founder of Ocushield, which I think is a clinician-led eye healthcare company.
Yes.
And you are non-executive director and investor on several tech and health tech care companies as well.
Yeah.
How do you find time for all of that, as well as your social life and family, and maybe a holiday here or there?
Yeah. I think I've created systems for myself though. So like what I've done is one day a week, which is Thursday, I'll normally dedicate to the portfolio companies. And that'll be the day where if I want to like have external meetings and get out of the office, investor meetings, whatever it is, I'll dedicate it to that day. So just being able to compartmentalize it, because otherwise, if you tend to get bleed over on different days, then your mind just can't get focused on the job. I think focus is key. I've learned the hard way that, in my view, you can only do one business at a time, like properly full on like be invested and be all in. So like that for me is Klyk. I'm all in. That is 95% of my working week. But it doesn't mean that you can't have investments and you can't have, things you're involved in from an advisory perspective or investing in businesses and stuff. That's my portfolio side of things. So that's stuff which I'm building for the long term. I'm less involved in it. Also, like Klyk may go down to 80%. I need to spend a bit more time on the portfolio, and that's okay. So just having that balance, and I think the key thing is being able to plan all of that as well.
I spoke to Nena Onobu, who's in the beauty sector, and she definitely is a big advocate of lots of different things because she said they all feed and support each other. And that dot connecting, and I'm sorry for anyone listening, not watching this, I'm talking with my hands a lot, but that dot connecting between all of those different sectors, people's connections, it all bolsters the bigger pictures to all of the businesses. But it is that off switch, isn't it? It's knowing when you've done enough. And do you proactively carve out time to switch off from all of this as well?
Yeah, so I think as I've got older, I've realized the importance when you're start a business in your early 20s, you're like an energizer bunny. You just keep going. And
You're deluded as well. You're like, I can do
yeah,
anything.
yeah, I remember I used to have like KFC for lunch and 2 Red Bulls a day and like that kind of diet. Like I think I still felt I was in university or something. Um, but yeah, as I've got older, I've realized that you gotta like look after your mental well-being, look after your body, because then if you look after your body, that looks after your mental well-being. You can think clearer. Exercising, so like 3 times a week, I'll make sure that I get to the gym. PT once a week. Healthy eating. So I've gone to a meal prep in the last year. So having those meal preps in, trying to cut out as much dairy as I can as well. So I still give myself the treats, every few days. I'm got a massive sweet tooth. So I think it's just getting that balance, on the diet side. But it's amazing how if you have, like with me, and everyone knows themselves, right? Like with me, if I have too much caffeine, my head gets scrambled. So like no more than 2 or 3 coffees a day. And I think the point you said around just listen to your body, listen to your mind. And when you feel scrambled and you're not getting anything done, I had it yesterday. It's like, what am I doing? It's like 7 o'clock. I'm just literally sitting here for the sake of it. I'm not actually doing anything. Just walk away. Just turn that laptop off, get out of the office, go home, and just switch off. But I think getting that balance is super, super important.
Yeah. And it's probably the hardest thing I found in the last 4 years to get right. And I
Yeah.
want to lead by example for my team, and I'm really not. And I'm like, guys,
Mm.
we've got a toggle, like time tracking, toggle for walking, for listening to podcasts, for reading. Do I
Yeah.
do any of it? No. But I'm so pleased they do. And I'm following their example.
Mm.
But I was going to say, it sounds like you're fueling a really well-oiled machine, and it's not just work productivity. To be the best at work, you're being the best outside of work with
Yeah.
health, exercise, sleep, nutrition, and not too much caffeine. It's really interesting, actually. Founders, I sort of joke, I go to the co-working office, Soho Works, and we use the Soho
Oh yeah.
House gym. And I see a lot of the guys in the office in the weights room, and all the founder chat of this is like meal prep, and you like more protein, Jules, you need more protein, you've got to lift more weights. And I actually sort of started drinking their Kool-Aid and thinking, they're onto it. It works. If you're healthy in mind and body, you come to work fresher, more ideas.
Energized. Yeah.
Yeah, and you enjoy it more as well. You
Yeah.
don't start to resent it.
Yeah.
But with productivity particularly, given that you've scaled teams at pace,
Yeah.
is there anything that you've put in at the beginning of these businesses that then trickle down through all the recruits that you bring in so it scales?
Yeah. So in terms of how we set up the business operations, that I've found works really well is firstly OKRs, so objectives for the teams. So everyone's very clear on, be it monthly, quarterly objectives, where we're going, what we're trying to achieve. And some of that could be like building the business, and some of it could be like financial driven. So like, revenue could be, gross margin, whatever it is. And making clear to the teams what good looks like. So not hiding away or sharing with them the financial side of things. I like to operate a really open business so everyone understands and takes ownership of the business, not just from a growth perspective or business operations perspective, but actually from a revenue perspective as well. So those objectives from a kind of macro perspective, then into the rhythm side of things. So making sure you have the weekly stand-ups at the start of the week where everyone kind of refocuses or thinks about, okay, what am I going to achieve this week to achieve or hit the monthly objectives that we're all trying to hit. So what are the blockers, making sure everyone gets together and talks about all of those types of things, and make that fun, make that, not something which can quite easily turn into a monotonous thing. Every single week you're catching up. So it's just how you bring energy and freshness to that. I think changing perspectives in your team is really, really key. Like even just small things like just using a different room in your office just makes things feel different. So then into the daily huddles. So like daily making sure that, the people that you are reporting to, you're clear with them what you're doing and what they're doing that day. So then every day you're getting a quick update of what's going on and if there are any blockers. And if you're able to create that structure, yes, it does take time away from your diary, but then everyone can get on with the job and they know exactly what they're doing. And also you are then able to document everything. There's a clear trail for how, if someone doesn't do what they said they were going to do, you've got that audit trail there. And it's clarity for your team members. They have that accountability when it comes to what they're trying to achieve and also what their role is in the success of the business. So for me, that rhythm is super, super important. And you get to a certain size, and I think I'm at that point now where you need to start thinking about outsourcing that to someone else. So we've just brought in an operations director into the business, and he's now picked that up, and it's great because it's like meant that I can get more on the business instead of in the business. And I think in early stage, you have to, as a founder, you have to be in, right? You've got to be controlling everything and driving it forward.
Test, break, and learn everything. And then when it's built and ready, you can hand it off to someone to have a really nice time with it. The excitement and the drive is there. And if everybody's checking in with each other and there's that accountability, I love this and I've always worked like that, but I've worked for businesses that weren't like that and very private and teams didn't talk to each other, and I found it quite boring. But with our team, every Monday we do a success and failure from the week before and 3 things we'd like to tick off our list for the week ahead and what support we might need from each other. And it is 2 years of that in, and we're like, how do we make this more exciting? And then I'm going to chuck in a rogue, and where are you going on holiday next, or something, just so we all get to know each other, especially if we're hybrid, because we're not all eavesdropping on each other's lives. You don't know each other as well as you would if you're 5 days a week together. But that relationship is built and that drive is there, and you know that you're all united in the same mission, which is exciting. And how have you found sort of letting it go a bit to somebody else? You're like, ready, take it, run.
I find that easy. It's a classic interview question when you hire someone like in that role. Like they'll always ask you, how do you feel about letting go, right? It's a big problem, I think, sometimes for founders. They don't want to let go. But I think because I've gone on the journey a couple of times, like I know where I'm best at. I don't think I'm the best at that early stage and driving the rhythm. And I do it because I have to. I think I'm best when I'm being creative and I'm thinking of the ideas that are really going to drive the business forward. So actually, like for me, it's like being able to do the things that I'm best at and I'm going to enjoy, and selling the business and getting out there, meeting new clients, and all the things that I should be doing, rather than getting involved in the P&L for this month and, or operations, stock ordering, or, whatever it is, right? And every founder is slightly different. Every founder has their own strengths and weaknesses. And I think it's recognizing your own strengths. I think you've got to be a good generalist. If you're not good on finance, you've got to learn the finance. You've got to, bring your levels up in all areas. But there'll be certain things which you are amazing at. And that's what you've got to then eventually, once you get to the scale, then focus on, I believe.
And with purpose, given that you went after B Corp quite quickly and it was a no-brainer, I was going to say that actually the feedback loop is such a big thing that B Corp pushed through when you go through the certification. With purpose at the core of your business, do you think it has slowed down productivity? Do you think it's sped it up? Has it helped or hindered the business growth?
Massively helped it, because I think on a number of accounts, and I'll talk about the internal and the external. So the internal, it really helps align everyone in terms of where we're going. And when we make decisions and it's clear about what our vision is and what our purpose is and what our values are, it's really easy internally for people to know if they're making the right decision and challenge others that actually know that isn't the right decision. So it really helps with those internal discussions where you don't always need to be the person going like, oh, why are we doing that kind of thing? So you create that accountability and internal discourse in that way. Externally, I think from a purpose perspective, the amount of clients that we get like just coming through to us because they love what we're doing and what we believe in and what we stand for. So we've spent nothing on marketing in the last 2 years, like literally probably about 20 grand. like all in. Yeah. Like,
And for a business your size, that is amazing.
yeah. So all of our business come from referrals, pretty much all of it. So
It's the best PR you can ask for.
yeah, so we've done one trade show, but we've made a good return on that. But just because the business has been growing, we've just not focused enough on getting that marketing funnel up and running. Now, in the next couple of months, we just hired a head of marketing and now really trying to scale that side of things. But yeah, like from a growth perspective, it's been huge. And I mean, B Corp themselves came to us for their IT, wanted to work with us. And once you get a marquee client like that, then like they've done a case study on us, that's done their website, we then get referrals off that. So that purpose piece, I think, from a marketing perspective, from a sales perspective, and then finally from a recruitment perspective, like people want to work with you because they believe in what you stand for, and it becomes less of a financial conversation, which is amazing. Because when I came from the telecoms industry, which is all very commercial, like there everyone just wants to work with
Commission,
you,
money,
yeah,
bonus.
money and all that, right? So it's amazing. It's amazing. Like I think having people that want to work with you for the right reasons means that you get that real passion. They stay with you. They recommend other people.
Yeah.
So many benefits.
Well, it's so much bigger than the bottom line, isn't it? And when you work
Exactly.
this hard, it has to be. One question I started asking guests, and all of our guests are founders, whether they've sold, exited, currently in scaling, whatever stage they might be. Have you written your own job description?
I actually did.
Ah,
About a year and a half ago. So, because I thought I need to move into more of a growth role. So I actually wrote a chief growth officer job description.
does it
And
have all the other bits that you do without realizing on as well?
yeah, basically. So it was all like sales focus and like fill the pipeline and all that stuff. And yeah, it lasted about 2 weeks. So,
Well, I laugh kind of manically slightly because I have had it on my to-do list to write my job descriptions. Like, there's no point because it changes every week. But
yeah,
also, I don't really want to know the magnitude of it because it's not realistic. But I
yeah,
remember I hit sort of a point in one of my previous roles. I was working for De Beers Jewelers, and I went into the CFO or CEO at the time and said, everything in green is in my contract that I'm being paid to do, and everything in red in the job description is all the other bits I'm not being paid to do, but I'm doing. He said, there's 1 page of green and 4 pages of red. And the moment for both of us is like, firstly, I'm really sorry. Secondly, we'll recruit a team for you. But it was a really good exercise to be really clinical about all the tasks. But I keep shying away from it in this job because I kind of in denial. I just don't want to admit that it's a little bit too much.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it will be a useful exercise and, helpful for the team as well.
I think it's super important. Once you get to a certain scale, I think it's super important to define. And I felt this when my first business, when I grew, you just start stepping on people's toes, like it becomes frustrating, you disempower people. So it's really important, I think, at some point to go, right, okay, I'm going to do this area, I'm going to own it, put yourself, create the org chart, say that's where you sit. Now I've brought in this operations director. It's important that you put people like that on the same level as you on the org chart so they feel like they've got that autonomy. Other people in the business also recognize them as their boss, because otherwise what tends to happen is people then end up still coming to you with their problems. And I think in those scenarios it's really important that you go, no, like that's not me. Now you need to go to Kevin.
Well, lucky Kevin, he's got an amazing piece of work ahead of him. What an exciting role. Something that we do is a question from the previous guest has a question for our next guest. And this was a mother-daughter duo who founded a skincare company. And their question was, do you feel good in what you're doing in all areas of your life? And it's a very holistic skincare company. So this question didn't surprise me. What is standing out to you at the moment and what needs to be decluttered?
Would say I feel like I still don't have the right balance with like entrepreneurship and business and my personal life, and my kids are growing up, having the time for them. Also, like, I've become a lot more spiritual in the last 2-3 years as well, and being able to dedicate some more time to that side of things. Like, as I've become more spiritual, it's actually given me a lot more equilibrium as well from a work perspective. It fits in nicely with the type of businesses that I'm trying to create from a people, planet, purpose perspective as well. The ethical side of things. And so I think for me it's about grounding myself. In my 20s, I was like, I want to retire by the age of 30 or 35, right? And you're in a rush and make money and and then go off into the sunset. I've now realized, like, I've just hit 40 like last week, and I realized this is just me, right? I want to enjoy doing this for the next 20 years. I want to build amazing things. I want to keep on, maybe over the next few years, I want to move into a slightly different role, so less heavy lifting. But yeah, I think it's now being able to find that balance, because you have to recognize as you get older, you just can't do the same hours, the same, work rate.
I've shifted in the sense that, yes, I've been in PR and communications all of my career, but I love the business side of things and the business development and the people management and that side. And the PR, yes, I could do. And friends are like, why aren't you doing more of that? It's like, because I really actually like doing this bit now, and you have that choice. I think that's why I will write my job description this weekend, because you can carve out the bits you want to do and the bits you don't want to do, and you have that freedom to make that decision. But no, congratulations for being aware is huge, for one, and then doing something about it. But I get the feeling if you did retire at 40, you would get bored if you're sitting on a desert island twiddling your thumbs. You're like, but I'm not saving the world.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like now all the experiences have brought me to this kind of moment that now I can, the successes, the failures, the blood, the sweat, the tears, like, can all help me build Klyk into being as amazing as hopefully it can be. So,
It already is. I mean, it'll be so exciting to see where it goes going forward. And what would be your question for the next guest? It could be anything around starting a business, scaling, anything.
So I would say my question would be around when is it enough? When is enough? Like, be it money, be it scale, be it the glitz and the glamour, the news articles. When is enough enough?
I think it's really important to ask that question. And we ask our clients when we're teaching them how to do their own PR, what does success look like to you in communications, in PR? Like, if we got 10 articles, would that be good for you? Or are you thinking 50? Why? And then going to the why for that, because a lot of people, and we do podcast production as well, and a lot of clients, I want to start a podcast. I'm like, but why? Why? And I try and get to the bottom, is this ego-led? Because if it is, it's not going to work. And if it isn't, and it's doing it for some other reason, then it gets exciting. But that why tapped into enough is so important. I love that.
Yeah, because my mom always asked me, like, why are you working so hard? And she goes, you don't need so much money. Like, why do you want so much money for, right? Like, like she always says, she's quite a spiritual woman. She goes, you're not going to take this to your grave, right? Like, it's quite hard hitting. Mom knows how to press the button.
If they do,
So I'm like, Mom, that's not what it's about. It's not about the money. Like, I think you realize at some point, like, how much money do you want, right? How much of those nice things do you want? Yeah, you got, all those nice things. Maybe you could have even nicer things. For me personally, like, I love the challenge of it. Like, I love the challenge of creating something.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been wonderful chatting. And congratulations on everything you've achieved. Amazing.
Thank you. No, thank you.
I really hope you've enjoyed this conversation. You can find a recap of all the advice so kindly shared by our guest in the show notes, along with their contact details. We'd love it if you could rate and review or share this podcast, because it really does help other people discover it. To incentivize this a little, I would very happily offer you one of our PR guides on how to share editorial coverage legally. Just DM us or send us an email, hello@fallowfieldmason.com, with review in the title, and we'll share it on.